Wrestling moves that almost kill people. Man, see, this is the reason I have so much respect for pro wrestlers. I don't care what promotion you are in. I don't care about all the other stuff. At the end of the day, they all got to do the same thing, and that is to get in the ring and take some damage, especially the jobbers, because they get it the worst. They get it the worst with no promise of getting any championships or anything like that. They all do it purely for the entertainment of people that they will never meet again a day in their lives. Now, some of them do it for the paycheck, but I can't say that about everybody because I've been to independent shows where people got beat up, put their body on the line, and bled everywhere just to turn around and get paid 2 cheeseburgers, a cupcake, and a cup of ice water. That's it. They do it for the love of the game. So for me, I can't do it, bro. Much respect for the pro wrestlers. I couldn't do it. But anyway, before we get into this video, guys, please do me a favor. If you love wrestling, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's get into it.
You're gonna be really glad you aren't this guy.
Moose getting involved.
This
They're
wrestler's
saving.
chest was so sweaty that his opponent's hand slid and hit him in the throat. The wrestler couldn't breathe and actually had to leave the ring and didn't sell the move.
Moose almost
Thankfully,
killed
he
him.
was okay and continued the match. But this next wrestler wasn't so lucky. The main event of the February 6, 2012 episode of Raw was a 6-pack challenge. 2 of the participants
Oh, I
were
remember
Miz
this.
and R-Truth. During the match, Truth sent Miz to the outside and then tried to hit a springboard splash. However, the Miz failed to catch R-Truth and the future 24/7 champion landed straight on his back. Truth had difficulty moving and was unable to continue the match, but did recover. This next move, though, is extremely dangerous and was actually banned in WWE. AJ Styles' Styles Clash has caused many neck injuries. The reason it's so dangerous is that the person taking the finisher has to whip their head back. While this seems simple, most wrestling moves require the person taking the move to tuck their chin in. But if you do that while taking the Styles Clash, it can
over.
result in your head and neck being crushed. A
Ooh,
British wrestler...
That's always the thing I never understood about New Japan. I used to watch it a lot, but as I gotten older, when I started seeing people, especially like Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega and Cody Busha and all these landing on their head almost every other move, I'm like, bro, do they not care about their neck? They don't want to turn their head left and right when they get older, do they? They want to have the Batman neck, don't they? Like, I don't get it. I don't.
named Lionheart fell victim to the Styles Clash and actually broke his neck. Doctors told Lionheart he might never walk again, and he was out of action for a year. Sometimes though, it's the simplest moves that can be the most dangerous. During a 2 out of 3 falls match for the Women's Championship, the challenger, Candice Michelle, was climbing the ring post. The champion, Beth Phoenix, countered by throwing her body into the top rope, causing Candice to fall to the mat. However, Michelle landed incorrectly, and you can instantly tell that Candice...
Yeah, once you see their hand doing like this, like, I'm not trying to be funny, it looked like they're throwing up gang signs. Like, we saw that happen with Tonga Valor in the NFL. We seen him that happened to him multiple times, and his hands kind of do that posturing. Once that happens, it's serious, bro. Potentially a concussion and maybe something worse, but it's not good.
Phoenix realized this and pinned her opponent to end the match. Once Candice got to the hospital, it was discovered that she had suffered a cracked clavicle. Michelle did recover, however, and was back in action within 14 weeks.
I didn't know that was
simple moves, though. This guy was inches away from being paralyzed for the rest of his life.
Priced it in.
Oh my God, yo.
Chair shots to the head are banned in most major wrestling companies, and for good reason. During his run in Impact Wrestling, Jeff Hardy had recently turned heel. During an episode of Impact, Hardy ran into the ring and smacked Mr. Anderson in the back of the head with a chair. It's tough to watch, and it gets even worse. The chair shot caused Anderson to start bleeding, and it was nasty. It even looked like Jeff Hardy knew he had messed up. Unfortunately for Anderson, this wasn't the first time this had happened. At Survivor Series 2006, Mr. Anderson took on The Undertaker in a First Blood match and won. However, afterward, Undertaker got his revenge.
God, yo, why? What? Them chair shots back in the day were nasty. Oh my God, dude, I couldn't. I'm getting a headache just looking at this, bro. I might need a Motrin 3 or something, man. This is getting, yo, like, listen, this just made me think about Saturday night's main event, where Damian Priest hit Drew McIntyre with that concerto. That spot was nasty. Like, it ain't enough money you could pay me in the world to take that shot. Like, if I was Drew McIntyre, and the good thing I'm not, right? And probably because I have this type of mentality, I would never ever be in a place with Drew McIntyre, and because of my age. If Triple H would have ever approached me to take that spot, you will see it in dirt sheets where they said, "Hey, Triple H, Paul Levesque, hear these thoughts. hey, we need you to take this shot at Saturday night's main event. And Thought says, end quote, you want me to do what? You got me effed up, end quotes. And then he didn't show up to his match. That would have just been it for me, bro. Because chair shots to the head, oh my God, bro.
Even fans had to look away because that chair shot was so brutal.
Why,
in 2010, The Undertaker fought Rey Mysterio in the main event of SmackDown. In the final moments of the match, Mysterio hit his signature seated senton from the top rope, but accidentally landed on Undertaker's face. The botched move gave the dead man a concussion, as well as a broken nose and orbital bone. The injury took Undertaker out of action for 3 months, but it also did permanent damage to his vision.
And to this day, I still have double vision. So I can look straight and I'm fine, but to look kind of like my peripheral vision, everything becomes opaque.
Titus O'Neil's slip-up at the Greatest Royal Rumble is one of the funniest moments in WWE history. However, that doesn't mean Titus was safe. In fact, quite the opposite. O'Neil was inches away from hitting his head on the metal beam that holds up the ring. We don't even need to speculate what could have happened, because it did. During a New Japan Pro Wrestling event, a wrestler named Yoshihashi was running towards the ring and tripped. The fall caused him to hit the metal part of the ring and bust open. While Yoshihashi continued with the show, it was clear he wasn't all there, and the injury actually sidelined him for several months. While this was a pure accident, sometimes a wrestler gets hurt due to someone's carelessness. On an episode of WCW Nitro, the NWO assaulted Macho Man Randy Savage and took him to the ring. Big Show was in charge of carrying Savage, but accidentally fell when standing on the ring steps. Macho Man hit the floor and nearly smacked his head on the ring post on the way down. The landing had to hurt, but luckily Randy wasn't seriously injured, although I'm sure Big Show got in trouble backstage.
That could have been really bad. Your spine, even if it wasn't his head, his spine literally hitting that, like that could have been really bad.
Now, I'm not trying to be mean, but what did you think was going to happen? At an independent wrestling event, two wrestlers...
Big Show, we'll leave it at that.
Warhorse and Gary J were having a last man standing match. It was a very brutal fight as the two wrestlers wreaked havoc all over the venue as well as the ring. At one point, Gary J took part of the turnbuckle and put it inside his opponent's mouth. Jay then threw Warhorse out of the ring, but in doing so, the hook on the turnbuckle got yanked out of Warhorse's mouth. Instantly, a pool of blood began to form. Warhorse finished the match, but the botched move left him with a disfigured mouth and a permanent scar. What I'm really wondering
people who wrestle in GCW, I want to interview somebody from GCW, people who used to do backyard wrestling, CZW. Like, I just want to know why. Why do y'all want to be on an episode of MTV Scarred so bad? Like, what do y'all get out of it? What do y'all get out of it? I don't understand. I know it's the adrenaline, but I guess for me, as being scared and being a weakling, I guess, in that particular category, I would never understand. I just can't, bro. Like, stuff like that. Oh my God, dude. Oh.
Is how Montez Ford is still able to walk after this.
WrestleMania!
The plan was for Seth Rollins to trip Montez so Ford wouldn't actually flip over the top rope. However, Rollins was a bit late, and in the moment, Montez followed through on the spot. While Ford was at risk of a serious back injury, he was okay and wasn't out of action for too long. Sadly, this next wrestler had his career cut short due to one bad move. One of the most dangerous...
Yo, I miss Big E in the ring, dude. I really do. And it just made me think of how after the whole New Day heel turn, how to handle it, how bad they botched that. You know, that, and I just miss Big E in the ring, man. It's crazy.
Finishers was the Road Warriors Doomsday device, and for very good reason. In 1997, the Road Warriors were taking on the Godwins. The ending saw Hawk and Animal give the Doomsday device to Henry Godwin. However, Godwin ended up landing on his neck.
Oh my God,
caused him
man.
to crack his C7 vertebra, and he was out of action for about 2 months. However, doctors actually advised Henry Godwin to take more time off, but the WWE wrestler didn't. This sadly came back to bite him, as about a year later, Godwin re-injured his C7 vertebra. This time, the injury was more severe, and it forced Henry Godwin to retire. Normally in wrestling, though...
Yeah, you know what's sad about that, though? Because back in the day, when people got injured like that, they would come back early from their injuries because they were afraid that they were going to lose their job. Because some wrestlers would end up losing their job. Like, they'll come back, let them wrestle a match, and then fire them. So they're like, I don't want to lose my job. I need this job. I worked my whole life to be in this position. I'm going to come back early and just deal with the injuries, which is really bad in the long run because obviously as you get older, things get worse and the healing process isn't as fast as it was when you were younger. So that's kind of crazy for that. But that, I think from what I remember, they had them change the Doomsday finisher. In a sense to where people can't flip over anymore, so they won't suffer those type of injuries.
It's the person who is taking the move that's in the most danger. However, that's not the case with this wrestler's finisher. Once Nikki Bella started focusing on her singles career in WWE, she introduced a new finisher called the Rack Attack. The move saw Nikki place her opponent on her shoulders and then drop down to her knees. It was a good finisher, but unbeknownst to Bella, the Rack Attack was slowly breaking down her neck. Nikki Bella shared that she started experiencing numbness in her toes and feet, and in some cases couldn't move her legs. The pain finally got so bad that Nikki visited a doctor who made a shocking discovery. The diagnosis revealed that Bella's vertebrae had shattered, and this was putting a lot of pressure on her spinal cord. It was so bad, in fact, that the former Divas champion was one bad accident away from paralysis. Thankfully, Bella underwent surgery that not only healed her, but also allowed her to return to the ring. After cashing in Money in the Bank,
and we don't think about the fact that these people have, like, during the Vince era, of course, when they got to do multiple live shows over and over, the finishers are cool to do one time, but we got to do it 5-6 times a week over and over, especially a move like the Rack Attack. Yeah, it wears down on your body. It really does. And then eventually, your body can only take so much of that.
winning the Raw Women's Championship, Nikki ASH had her first title defense at SummerSlam. Unfortunately, Nikki nearly turned to ash. At one point, Nikki ASH and Rhea Ripley were on the outside. Charlotte Flair got on the top rope and hit her signature corkscrew moonsault.
Ooh.
However, the impact Nikki's head to smash into the ringside barricade. It looked pretty bad, and it was clear it took a toll on Nikki ASH. Despite that, however, Nikki finished the match. Triple H's finisher.
I didn't even know what part of my head to cover, bro. I'm like, yo, I just all of it. I know all of that hurt. I just had to cover something on my head.
The pedigree is pretty iconic. However, the original pedigree had to be banned due to how dangerous it was.
Yeah.
The game would keep his opponent's arms hooked the entire time, which made it difficult for the person taking the move to protect their face. This led to some extremely risky moments, like when Triple H pedigreed Mick Foley onto a pile of thumbtacks.
Oh no, not a second
God, man.
on the thumbtacks.
While Foley did walk away okay, not all wrestlers were so lucky. During one match, Triple H was wrestling against an enhancement talent named Marty Garner. Garner wasn't familiar with Triple H's finisher, and thus he took the move
wow, I remember this.
The botched finish caused Garner to land on his head and injure his neck.
I wonder how often this happens when people just try too hard to oversell or make a match look good that they I'm sure it happens a lot more than we know, but we don't see it that often where they over rotate all the time, or they try to oversell and just end up putting themselves in compromising positions.
Luckily, it wasn't
crazy.
life-altering, and Garner was eventually able to continue to wrestle. Now, one of the most
came out with the
finishing
lifesaver
moves
pants
in
on.
WWE was Randy Orton's punt kick. It actually got permanently banned, and to find out the real reason why, watch the video on screen.
I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, you kicking somebody in the face. I don't think you need an explanation as to why a move that could potentially kick somebody's head off, especially by somebody like Randy Orton, why that would get banned. But it could have got brought back at WrestleMania, but unfortunately we saw what happened with Kevin Owens and his injuries. And, prayers out to him, speedy recovery, and I hope he's doing okay right now. I really do. But at the end of the day, out of all these moves, which one is the most brutal that almost killed people? Let me know in the comment section. If you got reaction videos or videos you would like for me to react to, let me know in the comment section. Hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on TikTok, whatever you want. Hear these thoughts. That's the handle or the name or whatever you call on there. But thank you guys so much for watching. It's early in the morning. I got to get ready for work. Salute, peace.